Hello, this is the Beatles album review for Revolver, released on August 5th, 1966, produced by George Martin. 14 songs, 35 minutes, and the Beatles have taken a break from touring to focus on making a record for the very first time. In the past, they were like touring and making a record, or doing it all at the same time or in between tours. So this time they stopped, and I'll talk about that at the end. Okay, what's this album's a little bit different. You got 5 Paul McCartney songs. You have 5 by John Lennon, plus another one, The Yellow Submarine, which was largely written by John Lennon. So we'll call it 5 Paul McCartney, 6 by John Lennon, and then a third, 3 songs by George Harrison, which is the most he's had up to this point. And the album cover is made by someone by Klaus Vormann. You can see it's just what it is pictures and drawings of the Beatles. So you got the 4 big facials, and then all these little like photographs or like inserts of the Beatles sitting on ears, sitting on their hair. Here's Paul's head, and then I don't know. It's a black and white album cover. It's kind of boring. It's not the most exciting thing, but it's a little bit different. And I guess I don't know what the message is here. Maybe the Beatles are everywhere or something like that. On the back, you've got the names of the songs, the numbers, and who wrote them. They don't have the song times. Produced by George Martin, engineer Jeff Emmerich. And then on the inside, you've got pictures of each member of the band in black and white. So there's John Lennon. Actually, I think that might be Paul, because this is John Lennon, and that's Ringo. And then this, I think, is George Harrison right here. It's actually kind of hard to tell when they all have sunglasses on. Yeah. That's definitely John Lennon. Okay. So yeah, that's the... and this is a Parlophone, Apple Records deal. This, of note, 3 of these songs are on the U.S. release for yesterday and today. And this is an important disc for the Beatles, because what they were able to do through negotiations was consolidate, so all of their releases would be the same globally. There would no longer be a global release and a North American release, or one for US and Canada. But it's just going to be one from here on out, one. So this is significant. The Beatles had a lot of power and negotiating power, and that's what they wanted. Consistency worldwide. Okay, what else? What does it sound like? It sounds like the Beatles are going from shorter to longer, more sophisticated songs and topics. It's a little bit proggy, just a tiny bit proggy. Mainly coming from the Indian sounds, like they picked sitar sounds, and the last song definitely is super proggy. And some backwards guitar stuff and things like that. It's mostly a very calm album. It doesn't have the chaos that a lot of the early albums do, that are like super poppy, and just a smoother feel from, and consistent from beginning to end. Okay. So with that, let's get into it. The first song is Taxman, lead vocals by George Harrison. And by the way, he wrote this song 2 minutes and 39 seconds for Taxman. This is the 6th George Harrison song in the catalog. The other ones are Don't Bother Me, I Need You, You Like Me Too Much, Think for Yourself, and If I Needed Someone. And those are all really formulaic. This one too, we'll talk about that at the end. Okay, the key is in G major. And by the way, that's going to be a theme here. It's a moderate rock beat in 4/4 time. The verse, George sings, let me tell you how it will be. There's one for you, 19 for me. And the verses are like always like that. They're 8 bars, and he's singing a different verse every time, but they're always 8 bars. The chorus is, 'cause I'm the tax man, yeah, I'm the tax man. It's 4 bars. It's a very short chorus. And then this song is, it's one of those complex songs because it has a bridge in it along with the verse and the chorus. If you drive a car, I'll tax the street. If you try to sit, I'll tax your seat. If you get too cold, I'll tax the heat. If you take a walk, I'll tax your feet. Tax man. The bridge is 8 bars. And the guitar solo is pretty interesting. It's actually a Paul McCartney guitar solo. Very original sounding, and I didn't know. I just always assumed it was George Harrison, but when I was digging, looking at information for this, Paul McCartney played it, and it's kind of okay. And so George wrote this song because this is legendary. They were so poor. I think a lot of young artists and bands are. They don't have a lot of money. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They were living together essentially, and all of a sudden they were big stars and they had money coming in, but they had to give like more than 90% of it right back to the government. So him writing the song Taxman was about that. If I were to summarize it, I don't want to get too deep into it. And I think where Lennon helped uncredited. He helped with the bridge, I believe. Yeah, I think that's a pretty famous story, actually. Pretty well known. So, okay, the second track is, by the way, Taxman, good start. The second track is Eleanor Rigby, lead vocals by Paul McCartney. It's a Paul McCartney song. It's credited to Lennon and McCartney, but most of them are. And but this one was written by Paul. It's 2 minutes and 8 seconds, and it's got the big strings in it. You know, the... Okay, Eleanor Rigby, and here's the breakdown. I usually don't like to break down the lyrics too much, but this is a pretty significant song. By the way, I was just listening to the other channel, Pete Pardo's channel, and when someone said that he hated the Beatles, but this is like the one Beatles song he liked in a recent video. Eleanor Rigby is this old lady, works or lives in a church, picks up rice from the weddings, puts up a facade, face in a jar, look at all the lonely people. Father Mackenzie is the second person. He's a lonely priest. Most priests are not lonely, but this guy feels unappreciated. And then the third, when I say most priests aren't lonely, it's because they work for the parish and they're up in front in the public. The funeral, Father Mackenzie and Eleanor Rigby, no one was saved. The main theme of the song is alienation. But that that alone is just like a sense of growth and maturity by the Beatles and Paul McCartney, and singing about alienation and these things and having strings, like more sophisticated songs. That's what makes this proggier. This song is also in the key of G major, so that's the second track. Moderately tempo with a steady beat, 4/4 time. The intro is 8 bars. It's look at all the lonely people. Very famous intro. The verse, Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in a church where a wedding has been, lives in a dream, waits at the window, and then the verse keeps going, right? And then it ends with all the lonely people, where do they all come from? All the lonely people, where do they all belong? The verse is long. It's a 16-bar verse. And the bridge is, look at all the lonely people. It's a lot like the intro. It's 8 bars. And there's no solo. This song is, you could say this is a AABA, and that's all the song is. It's a verse, bridge, verse, outro. And that's track 2, Eleanor Rigby. Super famous song. Track 3, I'm Only Sleeping. Lead vocals by John Lennon. It's a Lennon-McCartney, and Lennon's written the song. 3 minutes and 2 seconds. Pretty long for a Beatles song, especially for John Lennon. It's in the key of G major. I think that's the third one. This is kind of a lumbering along song. I think John still has the depressed blues based on the lyrics, and this is continuing from Beatles 65 or if you Beatles for Sale, if you want to cite the global version. He's just in a funk, right? I'm only sleeping. The verse is when I wake up early in the morning. It's about 9 bars, and then the chorus. It's not a chorus. It's just the end of the bridge. Please don't wake me. No, don't shake me. 6 bars. Okay, so it's like a 16-bar verse, and then the bridge is keeping an eye on the world going by my window, taking my time. That's 4 bars, and then what's significant. By the way, I need to correct this because I think this is one of them that I talked about in yesterday and today, and I probably said that was a chorus, but it's not. If you really listen to it, and I had the opportunity to listen to it again, it's just a verse bridge. Okay, verse, bridge. It's an AABA song. What's significant about this song is the backwards guitar solo. It's 5 or 6 bars, and I think it's stupid, but maybe stupid's too strong, but it doesn't do anything for me. But John Lennon was really enamored with this kind of stuff, this backwards stuff, and they had the song Rain. I'll talk about Rain at the end. I guess that's proggy. I don't know. It's certainly innovative. Like I said, it's an AABA song. Verse, verse, the break and a verse, verse, bridge, verse, backwards guitar solo, the bridge, the break and the bridge again, and then the verse, and that's the tune. I'm Only Sleeping. Okay. Track 4, Love You Too by George Harrison. He wrote the song and he sings the lead vocals. And it's 3 minutes and 1 second. And he wrote the song on the sitar. And this is another song that kind of lumbers along. It's in the key of C major. And tempo rubato, which I looked up. Oh, by the way, I used the book. I should have said this at the beginning. The book is great because the book has, it's got all the music in it for a lot of songs, but not every song. The verse is, each day just goes so fast, till I turn around, it's past, you don't get me time to hang a sign on me. It kind of, that's kind of how the song goes, the verse. It's 8 bars. And I forgot to look. I wanted to look at all the chords that were in this song because I think it's just like variations of C. The refrain, love me while you can before I'm dead, old man. 4 bars plus some sitar playing at the end of that refrain. And the interlude is, it sounds like sitar playing. Like I said, he wrote the song on the sitar. So the song structure is verse, refrain, interlude. And the interlude is that sitar. It's like a bing, 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 bing. And then the refrain, verse, refrain, outro. That's Love You Too. And it's a very monotone, very South Asian or Indian inspired. It really has that feel to it. Pretty unique track. But there's a bunch of these from George coming up. Okay. Track 5, Here, There, and Everywhere. Lead vocals, Paul McCartney. 2 minutes and 26 seconds. This is back to the key of G major. This is the 4th track on the album that's in G major. 4 out of 5. And it's in 9/8 time. It switches from 9/8 to 7/8 to 4/4. That, for me, that makes it very hard to count. And let me see. Yeah, it wasn't in here, so I had to go to a different source. But I think the source is legit. So, the intro, to lead a better life, I need my love to be there. 16 bars is the verse. Here, making each day of the year, changing my life with the wave of her hand. And then the bridge is, I want her here, I want her everywhere, and if she's beside me, I know I never care, but to love her is to need her everywhere. 10 bars. Okay, so a 16-bar verse and a 10-bar bridge. And then there's no solo. The bridge seamlessly rolls right back into the verse. So as soon as the bridge ends, it's like there's no extra bars, or it just goes right back into the verse. And this is another AABA. So intro, you have a verse, verse, bridge, verse, bridge, verse, outro. Here, there, and everywhere. I think that was the song that John Lennon really liked when they played it back. I think that's what his quote was. There's a quote in there on Genius. I didn't take it down, but I think John Lennon liked the song. Track 6, Yellow Submarine. Lead vocals by Ringo Starr. Okay, and this is the, let me see here. Yeah, this is the John Lennon song. Of course, it's credited to Lennon and McCartney, but I think John mostly wrote it. It's a song about an acid trip. Does that make it proggy? Probably not. It's just I'm not really big on the drug songs, even the Pink Floyd ones. Like I don't. It's a song about an acid trip, and there's honking horns in it, and that's what kind of stands out when you hear Yellow Submarine. It's in the key of G major. This is the 5th out of 6 tracks that has G major in it. It's has like a march tempo in 4/4 time, like da 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 da, and that's the verse. In the town where I was born, lived a man who sailed the sea. That verse is 8 bars, and then the chorus is we all live in the Yellow Submarine, and that's 8 bars. I think we used to sing a variation of that on the bus when I was a kid. The bridge is, I don't know if it's really a bridge, but it's definitely like an 8-bar break in the middle where full steam ahead, Mr. Boatswain. Full steam ahead it is, Sergeant. 8 bars. It's Yellow Submarine. It's a famous song. It's a verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus. So complex song structure, not an AABA, not a verse, chorus. It's got all 3. And no solos. All right. We continue with Revolver. Track 7 is She Said, lead vocals by John Lennon, 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Another song about acid, tripping on acid. And there's a whole backstory about Peter Fonda, how Peter, they were at dinner, they were at a party, and I think the Beatles were sitting together, and Peter Fonda came up and was bothering them. And this was before the Easy Rider movie, is what John Lennon said. I'm sure you can go find it and read about it, but okay, it's in the key of B flat. There's 2 flats in the key signature, and 108 beats per minute in 4/4 time. The verse is, she said, I know what it's like to be dead. I know what it is to be sad. It's 12 bars, and the tempo changes. It makes it kind of screwy to count, and she's making me feel like I've never been born. So what John Lennon said was he changed it from he said to she said, so it's kind of a creepy song, really. I know what it's like to be dead. I know what it's like to be sad. I mean, John's still in the dumps, I think. The bridge is, she said, you don't understand what I've said. I said, no, 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 you're wrong. And the tempo and the time signature changes in the bridge, too. So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to count it. And because the sheet music isn't in here, I wasn't able to count that, not even that way, but that's okay. You can try to count it. It's a verse, bridge, verse. So this is an AABA song. They're still doing AABA stuff, which is what, the people that they really liked, Chuck Berry and those guys, that's what they did. Track 8 on Revolver is Good Day Sunshine, lead vocals by Paul McCartney, 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Key of G major. This is 6 out of 8. 6 out of 8 tracks are in G major. Moderate tempo, 4/4 time. The song starts with the chorus. Okay, so the chorus is Good Day Sunshine. Ba-bum, ba-bum. That's 6 bars. And then it goes right into the verse. And it's kind of got a bop. I need to laugh, and when the sun is out, I've got something I can laugh about. I feel good in a special way. I'm in love, and it's a sunny day. 8 bars. Paul, he is definitely a happier guy than John Lennon, just based on songs like this. You don't have a lot of Lennon songs where he's really appreciating life like Paul McCartney does on this one. Good Day Sunshine is a chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. That's the whole tune. Good Day Sunshine. Track 9, And Your Bird Can Sing. Lead vocals, John Lennon, 2 minutes and 2 seconds. A song about the Rolling Stones. I think this one was also on yesterday and today. Key of E major, 128 beats per minute, 4/4 time. The verse is, you tell me that you've got everything you want and your bird can sing. It's 8 bars. The bridge is when your prized possessions start to weigh you down, 8 bars, and then the break is also 8 bars. It's the same music but without the singing. It's just a, you know, and your bird can sing is a verse bridge break bridge verse. This is another AABA song. A lot of them on this record, I guess. Track 10 is For No One, lead vocals by Paul McCartney, 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Key of C major, moderate tempo, and 2. So even though it's in 4/4 time, you count it in cut time. So it's 1, 2. It's cut time. The verse is, your day breaks, your mind aches, you find that all her words of kindness linger on when she no longer needs you, 8 bars. It's a popular song, I think. It's a jingle I kind of like. The bridge is, and in her eyes you see nothing, no sign of life behind the tears, cried for no one, a love that should have lasted years. It's 8 bars plus a couple of bars, and there's a big French horn solo in it by someone named Alan Civil, and it's an 8 bar. It's I'm trying to remember. I think it's kind of like that. But it's a real grandiose, like the French horn has a big sound, big brass sound to it, and it's kind of mellow too. It's a verse bridge, verse solo bridge, verse bridge. Another AABA song by the Beatles. And one thing to note there, it's unusual for a song to end with a bridge, but For No One does end with a bridge. Track 11 is Dr. Robert, lead vocals by John Lennon, 2 minutes and 15 seconds. This is my favorite song on Revolver, and it's one of my all-time favorite Beatles songs. It's not quite country, and George Harrison is playing this real scratchy lead guitar. It's just cool, and no guitar solo. It's a song about getting hooked up from your doctor or dentist. Hooked up on drugs, I guess it's another drug song. Key of A major, we're breaking the trend here. Although, sheetmusicdirect.com says it's in G major. It is in G major, isn't it? That's the 7th song out of 11 in G major. It's in 4/4 time. The verse is, ring my friend, I said you'd call Dr. Robert. Day or night, he'll be there anytime at all, Dr. Robert. Dr. Robert. 18 bars is the verse. The chorus is, Dr. Robert, you're a new and better man. He helps you understand. He does everything he can, Dr. Robert. That's 8 bars. And then there's a bridge. Very much, I think I said this in the yesterday and today too. It was very much like Pink Floyd, Syd Barrett tune, the bridge. Almost like Syd was inspired or under the influence of songs like this. And I think it's the keyboards that are so prominent in the bridge. Well, you're feeling fine. Well, he'll make you, Dr. Robert. And it goes back to the verse. No solo, no intermission, nothing like that. It's a verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus, bridge, outro. So complex song structure. God dang, we still have 3 more songs. Track 12 is I Want to Tell You, lead vocals by George Harrison. This is the 3rd and final George song. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Do. Key of A major. This one breaks the G major trend. It's 120 beats per minute about in 4/4 time. The verses, I want to tell you, my head is filled with things to say when you're here. 12 bars with some signature changes in there. In the bridges, but if I seem to act unkind, it's only me. It's not my mind. That's confusing things. There's no solo in this song. It's a verse, bridge, verse. So another AABA song. I want to Tell You by George Harrison. Track 13, Got to Get You Into My Life. A Paul McCartney song, 2 minutes and 31 seconds. A song about pot is what, another drug song that's what Paul McCartney said. Key of G major, that's 8 out of 13 on this record. It's a very steady tempo with a swing beat, 4/4 time. There's a lot of brass in this song, too. Verse, I was alone, I took a ride, I didn't know what I would find there, 16 bars. And the refrain is, got to get you into my life, and there's those big horns blasting. It's 4-bar refrain. And the break is just, it's like 4 bars, and that's it. It's just a break. Real quick, it's a verse, verse, refrain, verse, refrain, verse. Or, I'm sorry, break, refrain, outro. I guess you could say this is another AABA song. Okay, the last tune on the album is probably the most unique song. Track 14, Tomorrow Never Knows. Lead vocals by John Lennon. He wrote the song, 2 minutes and 57 seconds. It's a landmark song for the Beatles on the album. It's meant to sound really Indian. It sounds like sitars in there. Methodical drumming by Ringo, seems like the same chord over and over again. And if you look at the sheet music, it's like a lot of C's and variations of C's. And a very repetitive bass line, like, just cue it on the bass. You'll know what I mean. John was reading this book called The Tibetan Book of the Dead. And that was the inspiration for the lyrics, and Ringo named the song. It was just like a throwaway comment made by Ringo, and that became the name of the song. It's in the key of C major, moderate tempo, 4/4 time. The verses, this song is basically all verses in the key of C and variations of C chords. Turn off your mind, relax, and float downstream. It is not dying. It is not dying. That's the first verse, and it's 8 bars. The solo in the song, it's a backwards guitar solos, plenty of them. For about 27 seconds at the 1 minute mark is when it starts. And there are time changes in there, so it's not 4/4 all the way through. It's just kind of like moving around, and I didn't even try to count it because of that. It's, like I said, it's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 7 verses, and after the third verse, that's where that backwards guitar solo. So verse, 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 solo, verse, 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 verse. It's a cool sounding song. I mean, I know a lot of you probably don't like the Beatles, but you got to give them mad props for trying something new, for sure. Okay, in summary, Revolver. It was the #1 selling album in 1966. #1. It sold, what does that say? 7.1 million? Almost 7.2 million. That's a lot. But you know what? Rubber Soul beat it. Rubber Soul was in 65. I wonder if Rubber Soul was well, it must have been #1 in 65. This is the #12 selling album in all the 60s. I mean, it sold a lot. The Beatles are starting to get more proggy, and it was Roger McGuinn of the Byrds who turned George Harrison onto the sound of the sitar and led George to have sessions with Ravi Shankar, and that introduced him to a lot of the musical ideas that come from India or inspired by India. And also the singles for this album were Paperback Writer and Rain, which are not on the album. But Paperback Writer, they got more ambitious with just experimenting. So like the vocals are double tracked, and it was really difficult for them to play live, and they self-assessed that they weren't playing well live and it didn't sound good. That's one of the reasons why they quit touring after all the fiasco in the Philippines and and then Rain, the beach side of Paperback Writer is Rain. Rain is the first song ever that had backwards guitar solos, and they continued that here on Revolver. Let's see, progarchives.com gives us a 4.37, which to me, that seems too high. Allmusic.com gives it 5 stars. Rolling Stone gives it 5 stars. Everywhere gives it 5. Everybody gives it 5 stars. I mean, to me, it's not a 5-star album. It's a little too bland for me, but that's just my musical taste. I think everybody else likes it. I appreciate the innovation and the progginess, but this is not my favorite Beatles album, okay? But it might be your favorite Beatles album. Revolver. Okay, next on the channel will be Ummagumma studio album. Maybe I'll try to get that out tomorrow. I'm out.